This week holds a quiet promise for you, Taurus, and if you stay with me through every word of this message, you are going to understand exactly how to turn steady ground into a launchpad for something extraordinary. The title says it all, stability with growth. And I know that might sound like two things that do not belong together, because your whole life, people have told you that in order to grow, you have to leave your comfort zone behind. They have told you that change requires chaos, that evolution means destruction of the old, that you cannot build something new without tearing down what already exists. But what if that is not true? What if the very foundation you have spent years constructing is not a limitation but the exact platform you need to reach the next level? That is what this week is about. Not abandoning what you have built but building on top of it. Not replacing your roots, but letting them push deeper into richer soil so that what grows above the surface is taller, stronger, and more beautiful than anything you have imagined. I need you to settle in right now. Get comfortable. This is a long message for a reason. Every section connects to the next, and if you skip ahead, you will miss the thread that ties everything together. So breathe, relax, and let this energy move through you. By the end, you will see the full picture, and it is going to change how you approach every single day of the week ahead. Tip 1. The ground beneath your feet is more solid than you realize, and this week it becomes your greatest advantage. There is something happening in your energy right now, Taurus, that you might not have fully recognized yet. You have been standing on solid ground for a while, but you have been so focused on looking at the horizon, so consumed with where you want to go, that you have forgotten to look down and appreciate where you already are. This week that changes. The energy is pulling your attention back to your foundation, not to trap you there, but to remind you of just how strong it is. Because here is what happens when you truly understand the strength of your foundation. You stop being afraid to build higher. Think about a tree for a moment. The tallest trees in the world, the ones that reach hundreds of feet into the sky, do not do so by having shallow roots. Their root systems are massive, spreading wide and digging deep, anchoring themselves so firmly into the earth that even the most violent storms cannot bring them down. You are like that tree, Taurus. You have spent years developing your root system. Every experience you have weathered, every challenge you have faced, every season of drought where you wondered if anything good would ever grow again. All of that was root work. It was invisible. It was underground. Nobody could see it happening, and sometimes even you doubted that anything was growing at all. But it was. And now those roots are so deep, so interwoven with the bedrock of who you are, that the next phase of growth is not only possible, it is inevitable. What does this look like in practical terms? It looks like a calm confidence that you carry into conversations this week. Not arrogance, not bravado, but a quiet knowing that you have earned the right to speak with authority about your own life. It looks like making decisions without second-guessing yourself 20 times. It looks like saying yes to opportunities that would have intimidated you a year ago, because you know now that your foundation can handle the weight of expansion. You are not building on sand, Taurus. You are building on bedrock, and bedrock does not shift. Now, I want you to do something specific in the early days of this week. I want you to take an inventory of what you have built. Not just material things, though those count too. I mean the relationships you have nurtured, the skills you have developed, the emotional resilience you have cultivated, the wisdom you have gathered from every wrong turn and dead end and beautiful surprise. Write it down if you need to. See it in front of you. Because when you can see it clearly, you will realize that you are not starting from 0. You are not starting from 10. You are starting from 100. And the energy of this week is going to multiply everything that is already in place. There is also something here about trust. Taurus, you have a complicated relationship with trust, not because you are incapable of it, but because you have been let down before. You have put your faith in people, in plans and promises, and watched them crumble. Those experiences taught you to be careful, to hold back, to protect yourself by keeping one foot on solid ground at all times. That instinct has served you well. But this week, the energy is asking you to trust not just cautiously, but fully. Trust the ground you are standing on. Trust the work you have done. Trust that the stability you have created is not fragile. It is forged. And forged things do not break easily. The other thing I want to mention about this first tip is the way stability affects everything around you. You might not realize it, but your steadiness is one of the most valuable things you bring to every room you walk into. In a world that spins faster every day, in a time when everything feels uncertain and volatile, your calm presence is like an anchor for the people in your life. They may not always say it, but they feel it. They feel safer around you. They feel more grounded. And this week, that quality is going to become even more pronounced. You are going to notice people gravitating toward you, seeking your counsel, wanting to be near your energy. Let them. This is not a burden. This is a gift that flows both ways. As you steady others, you steady yourself even more. Tip 2. There is a conversation you have been avoiding, and this week it finds you whether you are ready or not. Taurus, I know you prefer things to unfold on your own timeline. You like to choose when and where and how things happen. You like to feel prepared. You like to have your words organized before you speak them. And that careful, deliberate approach is one of your strengths. But this week, a conversation that you have been putting off is going to arrive at your doorstep, and it is not going to wait for you to feel ready. So let us talk about that now while you still have time to prepare your heart, if not your script. This conversation might be with someone close to you. It might be about a relationship dynamic that has been silently shifting for months. Maybe one of you has been growing in a direction that the other has not acknowledged. Maybe there are unspoken expectations sitting between you like invisible walls, and both of you have been walking around them instead of through them. Or maybe it is simpler than that. Maybe someone just needs to hear something from you that you have been afraid to say, not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. And honesty, real honesty, requires a kind of vulnerability that does not come naturally to you. Here is what I want you to understand about this conversation. It is not a threat. It is an invitation. It is the universe clearing a path for deeper connection. But that path requires you to walk through a moment of discomfort first. Think about how a bone heals. When a bone breaks and begins to mend, the new bone that forms at the break site is actually stronger than the original. But the healing process involves pain. It involves sensitivity. It involves a period where the area feels fragile even though it is getting stronger. That is what this conversation is. It is the mending point. It hurts to touch, but the result is a bond that is stronger than what existed before. Now, there are a few things you can do to navigate this well. First, resist the urge to control the outcome. I know that is difficult for you. You want to know how things are going to end before they begin. You want guarantees. But this conversation is not something you can script in advance, because the other person has their own truth to share, and you need to hear it. Really hear it. Not just listen while formulating your response, but actually take in what they are saying without filtering it through your own fears and assumptions. Second, remember that silence is a valid response. You do not have to have every answer in the moment. If something catches you off guard, it is perfectly acceptable to say, I need a moment to think about that. In fact, that kind of honesty, admitting that you need time to process, is one of the most disarming and trust-building things you can do in a difficult conversation. It shows the other person that you take their words seriously enough to sit with them rather than reacting impulsively. Third, and this is the most important one, do not let fear of conflict convince you that peace means silence. You have a tendency, Taurus, to avoid rocking the boat. You will absorb discomfort, swallow frustration, and smile through situations that are eating you alive, all in the name of keeping things calm. But that is not peace. That is suppression. And suppression always has a cost. Costs you your authenticity, costs you your voice, and over time it costs you the very relationships you were trying to protect, because people cannot truly know you if you never let them see what is real. This conversation is your chance to be real. Not aggressive, not combative, just real. Speak from the heart, not the ego. Share what you feel, not what you think the other person wants to hear. And trust that the relationship, if it is strong enough to matter, is strong enough to hold the weight of your truth. Because it is. The ones that cannot hold it were never strong enough to begin with, and knowing that sooner rather than later is always a mercy. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Your relationship with money and material comfort is being reshaped, and the new shape serves you far better than the old one. Let me get into something very practical now, because Taurus is a sign that lives in the tangible world. You understand value. You understand worth. You understand the weight of a coin in your hand and what it represents, not just in terms of purchasing power, but in terms of the energy you exchange to earn it. This week, your entire relationship with money, resources, and material comfort is going through a recalibration. And this is not something to fear. This is something to welcome. For a long time, your approach to finances has been built on a simple principle. Hold on to what you have. Protect it. Guard it. Do not let it slip through your fingers. And that principle has kept you safe. It has kept a roof over your head and food on your table, and enough in reserve to weather the unexpected storms. But safety and growth are not the same thing, and this week, the energy is showing you that holding on too tightly can actually prevent the very abundance you are trying to create. Think about water for a moment. Water that flows remains clean, clear, alive. Water that is held still, trapped in a container with no movement, becomes stagnant. It loses its vitality. It breeds things that do not belong. Your resources are the same way. When money flows, when it moves with purpose and intention, when it is invested in things that nourish your life and the lives of those around you, it multiplies. It generates more of itself. But when it is hoarded out of fear, when every penny is guarded with white knuckles and anxious eyes, it stagnates. The abundance stops flowing because you have dammed the river. Now, I am not telling you to be reckless. That is not your nature, and it is not what this energy is asking for. What it is asking for is a shift in your mindset from scarcity to sufficiency. There is enough. There has always been enough. And when you operate from that understanding, your financial decisions change. You stop making choices from fear and start making them from vision. You stop asking, what if I lose this, and start asking, what if this grows? You stop clutching and start cultivating. This week, pay attention to any opportunities that involve investing in yourself. A course that develops a skill. A tool that makes your work more efficient. A change in your environment that brings more beauty or comfort into your daily experience. These are not luxuries, Taurus. These are investments in the quality of your life, and the quality of your life directly affects the quality of everything you produce. When you feel good, you do good work. When you do good work, opportunities find you. When opportunities find you, abundance follows. It is a cycle, and this week is where you step into it with both feet. There is also something here about how you value your own time. Some of you have been giving away hours and hours to things that do not serve your highest good. Maybe it is a commitment you said yes to out of obligation rather than genuine desire. Maybe it is a job that pays the bills but drains your spirit. Maybe it is a habit that eats up your evenings without giving anything meaningful back. Your time is your most valuable resource, Taurus. More valuable than any amount of money, because you can always earn more money, but you cannot earn more time. This week, start treating your hours like the precious currency they are. Spend them on things that compound. Spend them on things that build toward the life you actually want, not the life you settled for because it was easier to maintain. One more thing about money and resources this week. Some of you are going to receive something unexpected. It might be a refund, a gift, an offer, a discount on something you have been wanting, or a financial insight that saves you more than you expected. When this arrives, do not brush it off as coincidence. Recognize it as confirmation that the energy of abundance is responding to your shift in consciousness. The universe rewards alignment, and every time you align your financial behavior with your deeper values, the rewards follow. Not as a bribe, but as a natural consequence. Like plants growing toward the light, you are turning toward the light this week, Taurus, and everything in your material world is going to reflect that turn. Tip 4. A decision you made in the past is about to prove itself right, and you need to let that validation land. There is something beautiful waiting for you this week, Taurus, and it has to do with a choice you made a while ago. A choice that, at the time, might have felt risky. A choice that others questioned. A choice that even you have questioned in the quiet hours when doubt creeps in like fog, obscuring everything you thought you knew. This week, the fog lifts. And when it does, you are going to see clearly, perhaps for the first time, that you were right all along. This validation might come in a dramatic form. Maybe the project you poured yourself into starts showing tangible results. Maybe the person you chose to trust proves themselves in a way that removes all lingering doubt. Maybe the path you took, the one everyone told you was the wrong direction, suddenly opens up into a landscape so beautiful that you cannot believe you almost listened to the critics. Or the validation might come in a whisper rather than a shout. A small moment, quiet realization, a feeling in your chest that says, yes. This is exactly where I am supposed to be. Either way, I want you to let it land. And I say that because I know you, Taurus. You have a tendency to minimize your own accomplishments. You do something extraordinary and then immediately start looking for the next mountain to climb, never pausing long enough to appreciate the view from the summit you just reached. You tell yourself that what you achieved was not that impressive, that anyone could have done it, that the real work is still ahead. And while humility is admirable, this is not humility. This is a refusal to receive. This is a pattern of denying yourself the joy of your own success, and it needs to stop. When the validation arrives this week, sit with it. Feel it. Let it soak into your bones. Because this moment is not just about being right. It is about something much deeper. It is about learning to trust your own judgment. It is about building an internal compass that you can rely on when the external world offers nothing but noise and confusion. Every time you made a difficult decision and it turned out well, you added a layer of trust to that compass. This week adds another layer. A thick one. One that will serve you for years to come. And here is what many people miss about validation. It is not about ego. It is about evidence. Evidence that your instincts are sound. Evidence that your values lead you in good directions. Evidence that the quiet voice inside you, the one that speaks when you are still enough to listen, knows things that your rational mind cannot access. This week gives you proof. Tangible, undeniable proof that you can trust yourself. And when you truly trust yourself, Taurus, the need for external approval begins to dissolve. You stop looking for permission because you realize you never needed it. You stop seeking consensus because you understand that your path is your own. You stop waiting for the crowd to agree because you know that the crowd often follows the person who had the courage to walk alone. Let this validation change something in you. Let it shift the way you approach future decisions. Instead of agonizing for weeks, instead of polling every person in your life for their opinion, instead of making pro and con lists that stretch across multiple pages, let yourself feel. Let your gut speak. Let your body tell you what your mind is too busy calculating to notice. Because this week proves that your gut has been right all along. And that knowledge, once it truly settles into your being, is worth more than any amount of external confirmation. There is one more dimension to this that I want to touch on. Some of you made a choice not about what to do, but about what to walk away from. You left a situation, a relationship, a job, a pattern, a version of yourself that no longer fit, and the leaving was painful. You grieved what you lost. You wondered if you had made a mistake. This week, you see that the leaving was not a loss. It was a liberation. The empty space you created when you walked away has been filling up with things that actually belong in your life. And standing where you stand now, looking back at the door you closed, you finally understand that it was never a door at all. It was a wall disguised as a door, and walking through it was the bravest thing you have ever done. Tip 5. Your energy is shifting from maintenance mode to creation mode, and you need to honor that shift. For months now, maybe even longer, you have been in maintenance mode, Taurus. Keeping things running, holding things together, making sure the bills are paid, the relationships are tended, the responsibilities are met. You have been a caretaker, a maintainer, a steady hand on the wheel of a life that sometimes feels like it drives itself. And you have done that job beautifully. Nobody maintains like a Taurus. Nobody keeps the gears turning with the same quiet, relentless consistency that you bring to everything you do. But this week something stirs. Something inside you that has been dormant, not dead but sleeping, begins to wake up. It is the part of you that creates, the part that imagines, the part that looks at a blank canvas or a blank page or an empty room and sees not emptiness but possibility. This creative energy has been there all along, pushed to the back burner by the demands of daily life, waiting patiently for you to remember that it exists. Well, Taurus, this is the week you remember. Now, when I say creative, I do not necessarily mean artistic. Although for some of you, this absolutely involves art. Painting, writing, music, cooking, gardening, building something with your hands. But creativity is broader than that. Creativity is the energy of bringing something new into existence. It might be a new approach to a problem at work, a new way of organizing your home, a new routine that transforms your mornings, a new recipe that becomes a family favorite, a new idea for generating income that excites you in a way nothing has in months. Whatever form it takes, the common thread is this. You are no longer just maintaining, you are making. The shift from maintenance to creation requires something that might feel uncomfortable at first. It requires you to let some things be imperfect. Maintenance is about control. It is about keeping everything in its place, running smoothly, functioning as expected. Creation is messier than that. Creation involves experimentation, trial and error, rough drafts and revised versions. It involves starting something without knowing exactly how it will turn out. And for a Taurus who loves certainty and predictability, that ambiguity can feel like standing on unstable ground. But here is what I want you to understand. The ground is not unstable. You are not going to fall. The foundation we talked about in the first tip is still there, solid as ever. What is changing is not the ground beneath you but the sky above you. It is opening up. It is expanding. And in that expansion, there is room for things you have never tried before. Room for experiments that might fail and teach you something invaluable. Room for ideas that start as whispers and grow into roars. Room for the version of you that does not just keep things going but brings new things to life. This week, give yourself permission to create without judgment. Do not evaluate the output before the output exists. Do not kill an idea in its infancy because you cannot see the finished product yet. Nobody can see the finished product in the beginning. That is not a sign that the idea is weak. It is a sign that the idea is new. And new things need nurturing, not criticism. They need warmth, not scrutiny. They need space to breathe and stretch and find their shape before you decide whether they are worthy. I also want you to notice how creation affects your mood this week. When you are in maintenance mode, you often feel a low-level tiredness that never fully goes away. It is not exhaustion from working too hard. It is exhaustion from not working on the right things. Your spirit gets tired when it is not being fed, and maintenance, while necessary, does not feed the spirit. Creation does. Watch what happens to your energy when you sit down and make something, anything, purely for the joy of making it. Watch the tiredness lift. Watch the fog clear. Watch yourself come alive in a way that you might have forgotten was possible. That aliveness is not a luxury, Taurus. It is a necessity. And this week is your reminder to treat it as such. Tip 6. Someone from your past is going to cross your path, and the encounter holds a mirror you need to look into. This is one of those tips that might make you pause, Taurus, because encounters with the past can feel loaded with emotion. But I want you to approach this with openness rather than apprehension, because what is coming is not a return. It is a reflection. Someone you have not seen or spoken to in a while is going to appear in your field this week. It might be a physical encounter, running into them unexpectedly. It might be digital, a message, a name popping up on a screen, a memory triggered by a song or a scent or a street corner. However it happens, this person is not coming back into your life. They are passing through it, and in that passing they are holding up a mirror. The mirror shows you how much you have changed, because the last time you interacted with this person you were different. You were operating from a different set of beliefs, different fears, different hopes. You might have been smaller then, more uncertain, more willing to accept less than you deserved. Or you might have been louder, more reactive, quicker to anger, harder to reach. Either way, the version of you that this person knew is not the version that exists today. And seeing them will highlight that gap in a way that nothing else can. This is a gift, Taurus, even if it does not feel like one in the moment. Because growth that you cannot see is growth you cannot build on. You need to see it. You need to feel the distance between who you were and who you are. Not to judge the old version of yourself because that person did the best they could with what they had, but to appreciate the new version, to honor the evolution, to recognize that every hard choice, every sleepless night, every difficult conversation, every moment of surrender brought you here, to this version, to this strength, to this clarity. Now there is a chance that seeing this person will stir old feelings, maybe regret, maybe longing, maybe anger that you thought you had processed. Let those feelings come without acting on them. They are echoes, not instructions. They are the sound of the past reminding you that it happened, not suggesting that you return to it. You can hold space for what was while standing firmly in what is. Those two things are not in conflict. You can be grateful for a chapter that ended while also being excited about the chapter you are writing now. Some of you will find that this encounter answers a question you did not even know you were carrying. A question about whether you made the right choice, whether leaving was worth it, whether staying away has been the correct call. The answer will be in the energy of the interaction. Pay attention to how you feel during it and especially after it. Do you feel relief? That tells you something. Do you feel peace? That tells you something even more powerful. Do you feel a pullback toward the old dynamic? That tells you where more healing is needed, and knowing that is its own kind of progress. The key with this encounter is to stay present. Do not let nostalgia pull you backward. Do not let romanticized memories rewrite history. Remember things as they were, not as you wish they had been. And then, when the encounter passes, when the person continues on their path and you continue on yours, take a moment to stand still. Look at where you are. Look at how far you have come. Let that awareness fill you with the kind of quiet pride that does not need to announce itself. The kind that just lives in your chest like a warm light, steady and unshakable. You have earned it, Taurus, every step of the way. Tip 7. Your daily routines are either fueling your growth or quietly draining it, and this week reveals which is which. Let us talk about something that seems ordinary, but is actually one of the most powerful forces in your life. Your daily routines. Taurus, you are a creature of habit, and I do not say that as a criticism. Habits are how empires are built. Habits are how mountains are moved, one small action at a time, repeated with consistency until the cumulative effect becomes undeniable. Your ability to commit to a routine and see it through is something that other signs envy and few can replicate. But not all habits serve you equally, and this week, the energy is asking you to take an honest look at which routines are fueling your growth and which ones are quietly, almost invisibly, draining your energy without giving anything back. This is not about overhauling your entire life. This is not about throwing out everything familiar and starting from scratch. That approach does not work for you, and it is not what is being asked. What is being asked is a refinement, tuning, like adjusting the strings of an instrument so that the music it produces is clearer and more resonant. Start with your mornings. How do you begin each day? Do you wake up with intention, or do you wake up reacting? Is the first thing you reach for a source of information and stimulation, or a moment of quiet and centering? The way you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows, and if that tone is chaotic or rushed or dictated by someone else's agenda, you have already lost ground before the day even begins. This week, experiment with changing one thing about your morning. Just one thing. Maybe you add 5 minutes of stillness before you engage with the world. Maybe you drink your morning coffee without looking at a screen. Maybe you step outside and feel the air on your face before the demands of the day begin pulling at you. Small changes, Taurus. That is all it takes to shift the trajectory. Now look at your evenings. How do you end each day? Do you wind down with activities that restore you? Or do you collapse into distractions that numb you? There is a difference between rest and escape, and many of you have been confusing the two. Rest refills your cup. Escape just makes you forget that the cup is empty. This week, notice which category your evening habits fall into. If you have been escaping rather than resting, gently redirect. Read something that nourishes your mind. Have a conversation that feeds your soul. Sit in silence and let the day settle. These small adjustments might seem insignificant in the moment, but they compound over time into something extraordinary. There is another layer to this that I want to address, and it has to do with the routines you maintain for others versus the routines you maintain for yourself. Taurus, you are generous with your time and energy when it comes to the people you care about. You show up consistently. You follow through on commitments. You remember the small things that make people feel seen and valued. But how consistently do you show up for yourself? How often do you follow through on the promises you make to your own well-being? If there is a gap between how you care for others and how you care for yourself, this week is the time to close it. Not by caring less for others, but by caring more for yourself. They are not in competition. Both can coexist, and in fact, the better you care for yourself, the more you have to give. Pay attention also to the routines that you maintain out of obligation rather than choice. The things you do because you have always done them, not because they still serve a purpose. Some of these routines were useful once. They solved a problem, filled a need, addressed a season of life that has since passed. But you kept doing them because stopping felt like failure or laziness or abandoning a commitment. This week gives you permission to release those outdated routines with gratitude rather than guilt. Thank them for what they gave you. Acknowledge that the season has changed, and create space for new habits that align with who you are becoming rather than who you used to be. Your routines are the architecture of your life, Taurus. They are the bones of your days. And this week, you have the opportunity to strengthen those bones, to build a daily structure that does not just sustain you but propels you forward. Take that opportunity seriously, because when your daily habits are aligned with your deepest values, every single day becomes an act of creation. Every morning is a fresh canvas. Every evening is a completed chapter. And the story those chapters are telling is one of quiet, unstoppable growth. Tip 8. An emotional weight you have been carrying is ready to be set down. And this week shows you how. Taurus, I need to speak directly to your heart for a moment. Because underneath the calm exterior, underneath the steady voice and the reliable presence and the unshakable composure, there is something heavy. You have been carrying it for a while, maybe a long while, and you have carried it so consistently, so silently, that it has started to feel like part of you, like it belongs there, like it is just the weight of being alive, and everyone carries something similar, so there is no point in complaining or asking for help or even acknowledging that it exists. But that weight is not part of you. It is something you picked up along the way. And this week, for the first time in perhaps a very long time, you are going to feel the possibility of setting it down. The weight might be grief, not the sharp, fresh grief of a new loss, but the dull, persistent grief that settles into your bones over months and years. Grief for a person, a relationship, a version of your life that no longer exists. You have processed this grief on the surface. You have talked about it, thought about it, moved through the practical aspects of it. But underneath all that processing, there is a deeper layer that you have not touched. A layer that still aches when you are quiet enough to feel it. This week, that layer rises to the surface. Not to overwhelm you, but to be released. Or the weight might be resentment, a bitterness that grew slowly, almost imperceptibly, from accumulated moments of feeling unappreciated or unseen or taken for granted. You did not choose to become resentful. It happened one small disappointment at a time, each one adding a grain to the pile until the pile became so large that it colored everything. Your patience became shorter. Your generosity became conditional. Your warmth developed an edge. And you noticed these changes in yourself and felt ashamed of them, which only added more weight to the load. Or the weight might be guilt. Something you did or did not do that has been replaying in the back of your mind like a song stuck on repeat. A choice you wish you could unmake. A word you wish you could unsay. A moment where you were not the person you wanted to be, and the memory of that moment has been punishing you ever since. Here is what I want you to know about guilt, Taurus. It is only useful if it leads to change. If you have already changed, if you have already learned the lesson, if you are already a different person than the one who made that choice, then the guilt has served its purpose. Continuing to carry it is not noble. It is not penance. It is self-harm dressed up as accountability, and you deserve better than that. Whatever form the weight takes, this week offers you a way to release it. The method will be personal to you, but I can tell you that it will involve some form of honest expression. Saying out loud what you have been holding inside. Writing it down where you can see it outside of your own head. Crying the tears you have been holding back because you convinced yourself that being strong meant being dry-eyed. Allow whatever needs to come out to come out. Do not filter it. Do not judge it. Do not analyze it while it is happening. Just let it move through you and out of you, like a river that has been dammed finally finding its way to the sea. And when it passes, when the weight lifts even partially, you are going to feel something you might not have felt in years: lightness. Not giddiness, not euphoria, but a simple, profound lightness. Like you have been walking with a heavy pack on your back, and someone finally unbuckled the straps and let it slide off your shoulders. The relief is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is private. But it changes everything. Changes how you breathe. Changes how you sleep. It changes how you look at the people you love and the future you are building. Everything becomes just a little bit easier, a little bit brighter, a little bit more possible. And that shift, Taurus, is worth more than any external achievement. Because all the success in the world means nothing if you are too weighed down to enjoy it. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. A new sense of purpose is forming, and it is connected not to what you do but to who you are becoming. This is where the reading takes a deeper turn, Taurus, because we are moving beyond the practical and into the territory of meaning. Purpose. That word gets thrown around a lot, and most of the time it is attached to productivity. Find your purpose means find your calling. Find the thing you are supposed to do with your life. The career, the mission, the project that justifies your existence. But that is a narrow and exhausting definition of purpose, and this week the energy is offering you a much broader, much more liberating one. What if your purpose is not about doing at all? What if it is about being? What if the most important contribution you make to this world is not a product or a service or an accomplishment, but the quality of your presence? The way you show up, the way you listen, the way you hold space for others without trying to fix them, the way you bring calm to chaos and warmth to cold rooms and steadiness to uncertain times. What if that is enough? What if that has always been enough? This week, you begin to feel a new sense of purpose forming, and it does not look like the old one. The old purpose was externally driven. It was about achieving, proving, earning, building, demonstrating your value through outputs. The new purpose is internally driven. It is about alignment. It is about living in a way that reflects your truest values, moment by moment, day by day, regardless of whether anyone notices or applauds. The new purpose does not need an audience. It does not need validation. It does not need a title or a platform or a following. It just needs you showing up as yourself, fully and unapologetically. Now, this shift might feel disorienting at first. You might catch yourself wondering what the point is if there is no tangible goal attached. Your practical nature will want a target, a metric, a way to measure whether you are succeeding at this new kind of purpose. But that is the old framework trying to reassert itself. Let it go. Purpose in this new form is not something you achieve. It is something you embody, and you embody it not by doing more, but by being more present with what you are already doing. Think about the moments in your life that felt most meaningful. Not the most successful, not the most impressive, but the most meaningful. I am willing to bet that most of those moments were quiet. A conversation where you truly connected with someone. A sunset that stopped you in your tracks. A meal shared with people you love where the laughter was effortless and the silence was comfortable. A moment of solitude where you felt completely at peace with who you are. Those moments were not achievements. They were experiences of alignment. They were moments when who you are and what you were doing and where you were standing all matched perfectly. And the result was a feeling of rightness that no accomplishment can manufacture. This week, seek more of those moments. Actively create the conditions for them. Slow down enough to notice when they are happening, because they happen more often than you think. You have just been moving too fast to catch them. And here is the beautiful paradox. When you slow down to be present, when you stop chasing purpose and start inhabiting it, the practical results actually improve. Your work gets better because you are more focused. Your relationships deepen because you are more available. Your decisions sharpen because you are less distracted. Everything you were trying to force through effort begins to flow through alignment. That is the secret, Taurus. That is the thing that changes everything. Purpose is not found at the finish line. It is found in every single step. I want you to carry this understanding through the entire week. When you wake up in the morning, instead of immediately asking yourself what you need to accomplish, ask yourself who you want to be today. When you face a difficult interaction, instead of strategizing about the best outcome, ask yourself what the most authentic response looks like. When you feel pulled in 10 different directions, instead of trying to move in all of them at once, ask yourself which direction feels most aligned with your values. The answers to these questions will guide you more reliably than any to-do list ever could. And over time, they will lead you to a life that does not just look successful from the outside, but feels meaningful from the inside. That is the life you deserve, Taurus. And this week, you take a significant step toward it. Tip 10. The next 7 days are a doorway, and what you carry through it determines what meets you on the other side. We have arrived at the final piece of this message, Taurus, and it is perhaps the most important one. Because everything we have discussed, the solid foundation, the honest conversations, the financial recalibration, the validated decisions, the creative awakening, the encounters with the past, the refined routines, the emotional release, the new sense of purpose, all of it leads here, to this doorway, to this threshold that separates who you have been from who you are about to become. The next 7 days are not just another week. They are a transition point, a hinge moment in a larger arc of your life that you might not be able to see in its entirety yet. And how you move through this doorway matters. Not in a pressure-filled, high-stakes, one wrong step and everything crumbles kind of way, but in a quieter, more profound way. The energy you bring into these 7 days, the intentions you set, the choices you make, the things you choose to release, and the things you choose to carry forward. All of that shapes what is waiting for you on the other side. So let me ask you a question, Taurus. What do you want to carry through? Not what do you think you should carry. Not what others expect you to carry. What do you, in the deepest part of yourself, want to bring with you into the next chapter? Think about it carefully, because this is not about objects or accomplishments. This is about qualities. Do you want to carry your patience? It has served you well. Do you want to carry your determination? It has moved mountains. Do you want to carry your capacity for love, the deep, steady, enduring kind that does not waver with circumstance? That is one of your greatest gifts, and it deserves a place in every chapter you will ever write. And what do you want to leave behind? What has been weighing you down that no longer belongs in the story going forward? Maybe it is a belief about yourself that was never true. Maybe it is a fear that was justified once but has outlived its usefulness. Maybe it is a grudge that felt righteous but has only been poisoning you. Maybe it is a habit that once protected you but now confines you. Whatever it is, this week gives you the opportunity to set it down at the threshold and walk through the doorway without it. Not everyone gets that opportunity, Taurus. Not everyone reaches a point where the energy aligns so perfectly for release and renewal. But you are here, right now, this exact moment. And that is not a coincidence. I want you to enter these 7 days with your eyes open and your heart willing to see what is real, even when it is uncomfortable, willing to feel what is true, even when it is painful, willing to act on what you know, even when it is scary, because stability with growth is not a contradiction. It never was. It is the story of every tree that ever reached for the sky while keeping its roots deep in the earth. It is the story of every river that carved a canyon while following the same patient path for 1,000 years. It is your story, Taurus. The story of someone who does not choose between safety and expansion, but finds a way to have both. Someone who does not trade the known for the unknown but builds a bridge between them and walks across it with steady, unhurried steps. This week is your bridge. Walk it with confidence. Walk it with gratitude. Walk it knowing that the ground will hold you because it always has. And when you reach the other side, when you look back at these 7 days and see them for what they truly were, you will understand that stability was never the opposite of growth. Stability was the condition that made growth possible. It was the soil. It was the anchor. It was the quiet, unwavering truth that held everything together while everything else was changing. That is your power, Taurus. That is your gift. And this week is when you finally use it to its full potential. Everything in this message has been building toward one truth. And it is a truth that I hope you carry not just through this week but through every week that follows. You do not need to choose between who you are and who you want to become. The steadiness that defines you is not an obstacle to your dreams. It is the vehicle that will deliver you to them. Every tip, every insight, every piece of guidance in this reading points to the same core message. You are ready. Not because the circumstances are perfect, not because all the risks have been eliminated, not because someone else has given you the green light. You are ready because you have done the work. Quiet, consistent, unglamorous work that nobody applauded and nobody saw, but that changed you from the inside in ways that are now becoming impossible to ignore. This week, those changes become visible. This week, the internal shifts start manifesting in your external world. And when they do, I want you to receive them without apology, without minimizing, without immediately deflecting credit or downplaying the significance of what is unfolding. You built this, Taurus, brick by brick, day by day, with hands that never stopped working even when the purpose of the work was unclear. And now the purpose is becoming clear. Now the picture is taking shape. And it is more beautiful than you allowed yourself to imagine. Trust what is coming. Trust who you are. And most importantly, trust that the best is not behind you. It is standing directly in front of you, arms wide open, waiting for you to walk into it with the same quiet strength that has carried you through everything that came before. You have two options after this video: close it and hope things shift, or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.